This is your mini lecture for Chapter 12 on leadership and followership. Here are the learning outcomes for this chapter. You may pause here to read them if you would like. We're going to first start by discussing the differences between leadership and management and leaders and managers. All right, so leadership is just guiding and directing the behavior of people in a work environment. There's formal leadership, which is when somebody is given formal authority to lead a group of people. And there's informal leadership, which is when a person is an informal leader just based on their goals or others following them. Leadership and management are not the same thing. Leaders set the direction for an organization, align people, get people coordinated, and motivated people to take action. Management is really about planning, budgeting, organizing, staffing, controlling, problem solving. So they definitely can overlap, but they are very different things. All right, leaders and managers have different personality dimensions. I'm not going to read through these, but you can read through them so you can see that they have different attitudes towards goals. Their concept of work might look a little bit different. Their relationships might be a little bit different, and then their sense of self. And you can read about those. That's table 12.1 in your book. So we're going to describe and compare the 4 contingency theories of leadership. So Fiedler's contingency theory says that team effectiveness at the workplace is really determined by the fit between a leader and the situation. And so they look at this scale called the least preferred coworker scale. And I can post this as well. They basically say, this is my least you take this assessment. You think of your least preferred coworker, and then you rate that person and you get a score, and then it'll help you to determine whether you're task oriented or relationship oriented. So it really looks at aligning yourself with the correct situation. So if you're task oriented, you'll do better in certain situations versus if you're relationship oriented. So really task oriented is like, I want to get this task done. I'm really trying to achieve my goal. And relationship oriented is more about the people and the relationships that you're developing. So a leader's situation has 3 dimensions: the task structure. So how clear is it? Is there ambiguity or uncertainty? What is the position power? Is there formal authority? Is it informal? And then the leader-member relations. So what are those interpersonal relationships among the leader and the group members? Path goal theory basically states that a leader's behavior is dependent on the satisfaction, motivation, and performance of their employees. And the manager's job is really viewed as guiding their employees to choose the best path to reach their goals, not only individually, but also for the organization. All right, the Vroom-Yatin-Jago normative decision model looks at the different forms of decision making, so deciding, delegating, facilitating, consulting, and then consulting groups and individuals. The situational leadership model really looks at, what is your followers' willingness or readiness, and what type of leadership model should you look at? So if they have a low readiness, if they're unwilling and unable followers, then you should use telling, right, and close supervision. If it's moderate, they're willing and unable, then you want to make sure you're selling the ideas to them. If they're moderate, unwilling, but able, then you want to get them to participate. And if they're willing and able, then that's where empowering comes into place. Next, we're going to look at the recent developments in leadership theory. We skipped over some of the history. You can read about that. We're going to look at what is here and now. All right, so leader-member exchange theory looks at in-group members and out-group members. So members in the group have greater responsibilities. They have more rewards, need more rewards and more attention. They're more satisfied. They tend to have lower turnover. They're likely to engage in organizational citizenship behaviors, so be engaged within the company. And stress comes from additional responsibilities. Outgroup members, on the other hand, receive less attention and fewer rewards. They're managed more by formal rules and policy. They're more likely to retaliate against the organization, and stress comes from being left out of the communication network and not knowing what is going on. Right, there's different types of leaders that are considered inspirational, so transformational, charismatic, and authentic. Transformational leaders inspire followers to have high levels of achievement and performance. So they may be charismatic, motivating, very intellectually stimulating. Charismatic leaders use their force or power of their personality to kind of achieve their goals. And this has the potential to elicit high levels of achievement and performance. However, charismatic leaders can be both ethical and not ethical. So if you think about some charismatic leaders in history include maybe one of them is Mother Teresa or Princess Diana, and those are both considered ethical and positive. And another charismatic leader in history is Adolf Hitler, who we would consider to be not ethical, and not using his leadership abilities for good. And then authentic leaders have a really good sense of values. They act consistently on their values and their ethics. They motivate people to have high levels of achievement and performance, and they build a workforce that has hope, optimism, resilience, and self-efficacy. Next, we're going to look at emotional intelligence, trust, gender, and servant leadership. So emotional intelligence is really the ability to recognize and manage not only our own emotions, but also to recognize others' emotions. And it's a huge thing that employers are looking for today. We also want to look at trust. So effective leaders understand who to trust and how to trust others, and even how to gain trust. Gender and leadership. There's a trend in organizations where more women are placed in difficult leadership situations. And obviously, different people are going to manage and lead differently. And servant leadership is the belief that leaders should serve their employees, customers, and the community. So this is a really popular leadership model in today's environment. And then abusive supervision is really a negative form of leadership that diminishes employees' well-being. And it really just looks at non-ethical and really negative behaviors. Next, we're going to define followership and identify the different types of followers. So followership is when you aren't the leader, but you're actually someone following a leader, and you're being guided and directed by a leader in a work environment. Self-led followers tend to perform tasks that are naturally motivating and do work that must be done, but is not maybe naturally motivating. This figure shows you the 5 types of followers, and it looks at how passive or active they are and how dependent or independent they are, and it comes up with different types of followers. And I think that you can look at your own personality on this. If you're somebody who is very passive but has very independent critical thinking, then you might be an alienated. If you're very active but much more dependent, and you maybe utilize less critical thinking, then you're more of a yes person. And none of these is, I would say better. It's just understanding where you fall and where others fall on this continuum. We'll look at some historical leadership research. So basically, our guidelines for leadership based on everything we've learned in history is that unique attributes, predispositions, and talents should be appreciated. Basically, all leaders are different, and all leaders are going to do things differently. Leaders who challenge an organization, leaders should, be able to challenge an organizational style or employees, but should not do so in a destructive way. Participative and considerate leadership enhances the health and well-being of followers. Different leadership situations obviously call for different leadership abilities, and then good leaders are also likely to be good followers. You can't always be the leader. So that is your mini lecture for chapter 12. If you have questions, contact me.